It's good to see everybody. It's hard to believe another season's here, but it's upon us, and we have a fairly new group. We only have 4 returners, and the rest are new faces to Indiana. It's been exciting summer for us, and we've gotten off to a fairly decent start from an official practice standpoint. Just trying to play a lot of kids, play probably more than we have played in the past as far as getting up and down the floor against our squad, our black squad, which is our men's squad. Some of the pieces that we've had, Nevaeh Caffey is one that kind of jumps off the paper for me, who's played extremely well for our freshmen. I think her athleticism, the way she defends, is going to be special for us. Phoenix has been a young lady that has showed great promise for us as well. Maya Meskalewski has shot the ball. We needed to shoot it more consistently. But our leadership will come from Shea Chesky and probably Lene Beaumont, even though Lene didn't play a lot last year or play at all last year. But as far as her experience in being sort of an old head in our system and in our program, we'll lean on those two throughout the season for great leadership. But we're excited, for the season to start, and it's going to be less than 3 weeks before we have our first closed scrimmage and then exhibition game, and then here we are in the season. So we're excited.
Yeah, Coach. You kind of talked in May, and you said you weren't really sure what to expect when you guys got together and what this team looks like. I mean, and I know you've got 3 weeks here with the practices, but what have you learned about this group through the offseason, and what's maybe something that you're still trying to find out?
Well, I think for us, Mike, the biggest thing is, there's more new faces than there are returners. And so the returners, even though, I think about Faith Wiseman, who was still here a year ago, and Val, who got spot minutes for us, Bo that didn't play, they still understand the system and what we value and our standards. And, we talk an awful lot about wanting to be one of the best communicating teams in the country. And we always want to speak at a high and elite level. And so I think that's probably one of the things that is such an intangible thing, but is crucial to how we go about, our offense, but certainly our defense. And so getting them to understand, not just understand, but value the communication piece. I think it's too early to tell. I think these guys are just trying to get used to each other. What we have, Zia is another, young lady that jumps off the paper for me, because she has just been so consistent in practice with her communication, but also around the bucket, just being an anchor for us inside. I do think we have some interesting pieces. How we'll all gel together and when that'll happen, I don't know. But I do think we're more athletic than we were a year ago. I think that it's still right now the undecided who's going to back up Z in that 5 spot for us. I think that Faith has an opportunity. Odessa has an opportunity to do that for us, but it's still way too early to say that they're going to be legitimate backups for us right now. Z is is above everybody in terms of what she's been able to do in the summer and here as of late in preseason.
Teri, kind of a layered question here, but bear with me. In 2022, you guys, after Allie and her classmates graduated, you underwent a good amount of roster turnover then and made some, whether intentional or not, some stylistic changes to the type of basketball you guys played on the court.
Right.
Did you kind of view this offseason similarly, a chance to kind of hit a reset button on some things with your program? And I guess, if so, what was the timeline of all of that coming together, and do you feel like you accomplished what you wanted to?
Oh, wow. It's a loaded question, but a good one. I was pretty clear on what I thought needed to happen after our loss to South Carolina in terms of wanting to get more size and wanting to become more athletic. I didn't anticipate the exit, of some of those pieces for one reason or the other. And so I do think that, I don't know that reset, but we did have to put together a roster and go into the portal and figure out the pieces where it could help us become more athletic, for sure. And we wanted it to make sense, systematically still for us in terms of how we wanted to play, how we wanted to guard. The things that were and have always been important to us are the things that are always going to be important to us. We didn't change that stylistically. Do I think we did get more athletic? Yeah. But I think and again, it's early, but what we've given up in athleticism a little bit is our ability to shoot it. And so, yes, we got more athletic, but I think the jury's still out on, can we be as efficient as we've been accustomed to being outside the arc.
Thanks, Coach, for being here. With that roster stocked with some height, are you looking to veer away from the 4-guard set that you depended on in recent years? Can we expect to see some dual bigs? That's the part of the question. And then the other is the Coach Moren standards that we've gotten to know through the years, hold them to 60 points, limit turnovers to under a dozen, 18 team assists. Are those the same ideals for this year's team, or has anything changed?
To answer your first question, not looking to play double big. Not to say we will never do that, but we're not looking to play double big. Still looking, as I'm going to use Seth's word stylistically, to be 4 out, have our 5 in that dunker spot when we run our motion, have her elevated when we run some of our other stuff. But that hasn't changed, from a year ago, and probably will never go away from that, because that's worked for us. As far as game goals, again, with a new roster, but still, we'll go in with the same mindset defensively of wanting to hold them, and again, we haven't done that as a staff yet. Usually we meet, we look at the stats from a year ago, especially compare the Big Ten, and then kind of decide, okay, what are our defensive goals? And then we have offensive goals as well as that. But going back to the one category that will always stay the same to keep those turnovers low, will always be under 12 for all of our teams moving forward. But to say that some of them may change, may not change, but then. The one thing that I always try to do is, even though we have that number going into the season, I sometimes can manipulate or change that number going into halftime, depending on how we're guarding, just to get them to refocus on, okay, now we've kept them here, in 2 quarters. Now can we go out in the third and even be better, right? And in the fourth, even be better, right? And keeping them under a certain number.
Yeah, Coach, recruiting question for you. I know you can't talk names of unsigned players. I get that. Mm-hmm. But from a philosophical standpoint, what are some key attributes that you really want to add to your program this cycle and the next maybe 2 or 3 cycles?
Well, I think the first thing that we're always going to first couple things that come to mind that we'll always try to add is, are they high character, and then are they a winner, and then right behind that would be, are they a good teammate? We've built this thing on players that are unselfish. We've built this thing on teams on players that value both sides of the ball. Certainly we want to get out, we want to score with the best of them, but we have always hung our hats on the defensive side of the ball. We look for athleticism. We certainly look for skill. We look for high IQ. Those things will always, be what we look for in the recruiting process. But I do think as we move forward, we're excited about our 26 class that we've put together. As we look ahead to the 27 and 28, we're always looking to add, more athleticism, but again, a combination of athleticism plus skill plus versatility, which you can move your pieces around. And again, I think intentionality, meaning and again, it's everybody's prerogative to recruit who they want to recruit. We just feel like there's intention behind how we build our roster. Some people want to go out and just get the best kids that have the lowest number by their names. We don't do that. We go out and we recruit the kids that we feel fit us and what we're about and what our culture is about, versus going out and just they're the number 5 team, not kid in the country. Not that we won't recruit that kid, but there are certain things that kid has to have and exhibit when we're recruiting them and when we're evaluating them. That's the only way it works for us.
Coach, you kind of answered my question with that, with Rabbi's question, but the transfer portal has become big in every sport.
Sure.
Do the coaches talk with each other? Because what you mentioned kind of matches Kurt Signetti's philosophy of, fit over potential.
Sure.
Do you guys bounce ideas off of each other to make sure that in this small period of time, you get the right players to come in?
Yeah, I don't know if it's that. I just think philosophically this is what we've done since we've been here, just always trying to make sure that the kids that come inside of our program have to be about the team. And we've always said that. We haven't gone away from that. We've said no thank you to some of those players that might have a low mark or low number by their name just because we didn't feel like they were the right fit for us. But we don't have to do that very often because I do think that we as a staff do such a great job of figuring that out from the jump, right? The kids that we're going to recruit are going to fit us before we're going to invite them to campus. They're going to fit us before we're going to have an official visit with them, before we're going to go have a home visit. They're going to have to fit us before any of that happens. I think one of the things we've bounced ideas off of as coaches around here is probably how to handle the rev share piece, the money piece, because now there's more than ever, you got parents, but now you have agents, now you have handlers. There's more people that are around these young people that are involved in the recruiting piece of it. And so it's trying to figure out who's in their circle, who's helping them with the decisions, but also, okay, well, who's going to help them with the money piece? Is the money piece really realistic? Is it legitimate? Is it just a number that, is for real? And so I think what we've done with football, I know we have, is really just tried to pick their brains on how they go about the rev share. And we all know this. Positionally, there's going to be positions that are going to be more expensive, right? And it's in football, and it's certainly in basketball as well, right? And I think you guys can figure out those positions that are going to cost more money versus the positions that are going to be in the medium of that, and what perhaps a kid might go for that might not be as much, right? And so we've learned an awful lot. I don't think there's any exact science to it, but if there's anything that we've tried to pick the brain of Signetti and his staff is, okay, how do you determine the money amount for these players and be able to work within the confines? Money's different. The money that they're dealing with is a little bit different than ours, but still you're trying to make sure you're not overspending because you do have roster spots to fill.
Teri, you mentioned Lene before. All the roster reconstruction has kind of put her in an interesting position where she's kind of a veteran on the team, even though she hasn't played that much in the grand scheme. I mean, more broadly, how much of a veteran can someone be when you haven't had that much court time? And for her specifically, how has she embraced that role?
Well, first of all, I think she's embraced it. She was probably, Seth, one of our best recruiters outside of my staff in terms of helping us with some of the players that we now have on our roster, but also reaching out. How these kids are always DMing each other and somehow communicating with each other. She was willing to communicate with anybody to try to find and help us find her teammates. And so, you know, she is invested in this program. One of the things about Bo is that, you know, Bo is passionate. She loves this place. She loves this game. And so she's been in, maybe she's not been out there, but she's been in on all of our meetings. She's been in, you know, religiously working out. Whatever she could do last year, she was doing. Whether that was ball handling with Allie Patberg, whether that was passing with Allie Patberg, whether that was just form shooting with Allie Patberg. I mean, the kid was finding, even though she was restricted by, you know, for a long time with her knee, she was still finding ways to get better. And so, you know, she's been around us to know, again, going back to the things that we value. And so that has given her an opportunity to, you know, with her leadership abilities inside of that locker room. You know, we always talk about protecting the locker room. A year ago, our locker room was not in very good shape, was not in good shape. I do think it's in better shape today, and I think a lot of that has to do with Lene Beaumont and her making sure that, you know, we're gonna make sure that this is a healthy environment. It's a healthy locker room. We're all in alignment with our goals. We're all in alignment what we value, what the standards are, and I'm gonna try to hold you guys accountable to that every single day. That's what I've asked Bo to do, and she and I talk a lot just about how one goes about that, what that leadership looks like. But in terms of her being able to handle that, there's nobody better right now that I would love to lead our team more than Lene Beaumont. Yep, thank you guys.